Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Movie Battlegrounds. I'm Kirk the Consigliere Kolakowski. I'm your lead judge and host tonight. And I'll tell you what, folks, tonight I think we're going to have a bard murder. There's a lot of trash talk going on off the air, and I think these two competitors are ready to get at each other's throats, so we'll get right at it. Let me introduce first. Tonight, she is asked me to be introduced as Emma the Nazario Killer. Hello, Emma. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful. So I'm just a little disabled girl lying in a bed, and tonight I'm going to destroy Nazario. And that's only the second most impressive thing I do in this bed. So, good luck, Nazario.
Well, Emma's definitely ready to go. And her opponent today is Nazario. He goes by Mr. VHS. Nazario, how are you today?
I think I'm good. I am a little terrified, honestly. I am currently 0-1 in this league, which I actually kind of contest because I'm still convinced, and you can see my previous match. I am still convinced I won that match, but I guess the judges didn't agree, and that's the only version that matters, right? And now I get to play Emma. I don't really know how this is gonna go. I have never seen her debate. I know she's really solid at trivia, but this is a different kind of beast. So let's see what happens.
All right. Both competitors definitely have a fire lit on them tonight. I'm excited to see what happens. And before we get started, let me introduce my two co-judges. First, we have Nicholas Tewig. Nicholas, how you doing tonight? How you feel about this match?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I pulled in a little last minute, so just read the questions, don't know the answers. Looking forward to it.
Well, we appreciate you stepping in and taking that spot for us. And our third judge for the night, rounding us out, is Mr. Carefree. It's Richard. Richard, you heard them talk. How do you think this match is going to go down?
It's going to be fun. I can already tell it's going to be a fun match. I'm looking forward to judge. I'm the guy who focuses on, the debate itself. I am very impartial, and I am definitely looking forward to this match. It's going to really be fun. I can already tell.
All right. Glad to hear it. So here's how it works, guys. We start out with 3 questions. Each question you will be given 90 minutes or 90 seconds for an opening statement. From there will be 5 minutes of a general fight. And after your time runs out there, you will both be given 1 minute on your own for a closing statement. You both have the opportunity for one of the questions to add an extra minute to go 6 minutes instead of 5 for the general fight. If you want to use that, just let me know ahead of time, and we will add that time to the clock. So, Emma, are you ready?
I am.
Nazario, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, round 1, fight. Question number 1. Very simple. What is the best horror franchise? And, Emma, let me start my timer. And whenever you are ready, you may begin. 90 seconds.
My opponent would have you believe that a deconstruction of the horror genre deserves to be considered the greatest horror franchise. I prefer a franchise that celebrates what horror is, and that franchise is none other than Evil Dead. My opponent's choice is celebrated for its humor, but it gets its laughs by poking fun at what horror is. Evil Dead gets its laughs by being a pure, balls to the wall, badass experience. Really, is it that easy to differentiate my opponent's choice from the parodies that were made after it? Whereas, when Evil Dead is parodied, we get movies like Cabin in the Woods. In every way, my friends, Evil Dead is the best horror franchise.
Okay, and then I assume you're conceding the rest of your time there.
I
And
am.
so we have one choice for the Evil Dead franchise. Nazario, as soon as you're ready, and you can go ahead. Your 90-second start whenever you start talking.
To be the best horror franchise, you first have to be a very solid franchise. And that's why am I going with Scream, which is one of the more consistently good to great horror franchises ever made. It does has humor, like Emma mentioned, just like Evil Dead has humor, but unlike Evil Dead, Scream is always horror first. Every single episode in the series is horror first. You get the gore, you get the jump scares, you get everything. I don't think you can say that about Evil Dead. Evil Dead is a good franchise overall, just not fully a horror franchise. So we can get into that a little later.
Okay, so there you have it. We are dealing with Evil Dead versus Scream. Two great franchises, but we're going to decide right now which is the best. And whenever you guys start talking, we'll start your 5-minute fight.
Okay, so not consistently a horror franchise. This is a franchise where in the first film, a woman is raped by a tree, and in the second film, the protagonist's hand comes alive and he has to chop it off. And in the second film, he has to fight undead monsters after being teleported back in time. And by the way, he does it with the chainsaw attached to his stump, which is fucking awesome. And in the reboot, which is amazing that it's a reboot that is actually good, it turns the horror up to 11. In every
Okay.
way, Evil Dead is pure horror.
Scream is something that brought back the slasher film. The slasher film was dead and buried by the early 90s, and this reinvented the genre. It introduced the meta element into the films because it knew what it needed. It needed to adapt and morph, and it never forgot that it was a horror movie. Only that this time it was horror movies about people who actually saw horror movies and actually knew all the things that happen in horror movies. It actually makes a point of singling out all the good things that people have become cliches in horror movies and yet keep falling for them. And the movie is genuinely scary. Your point about Evil Dead, yes, Evil Dead 1 is a horror film, straight up. Dead by Dawn, the second one, it's more of a mixed thing. It's more goofy and it's fun and it's very memorable, but it's not fully horror. And Army of Darkness, I'm sorry, that's just straight up comedy. There's not a single frame in that film that tells anything scary or truly horror. It's just a bit of comedy. And the thing that made it memorable, yeah, go.
It's a horror comedy for sure, but really, you found Scream scary? It's not scary. And you said right there,
It's completely scary and it's very smart about it too.
No, it's not. And it's bringing in the meta element, like you said. It's not really originating anything. It's just
it is originating the meta element of the film.
What came before.
Establishes perfect rules for every chapter in the franchise. The first one, it tells you the rules of the horror movie. The second one tells you the rules of sequels in horror films, which is more gore, more elaborate deaths. The third one, it makes the rules of the trilogy because it was a closed circle at that time, going back to the beginning, and it actually makes the third one very connected to the first one. And the fourth one, they didn't go for a reboot like it's like the easy choice that Evil Dead went with. They actually wanted to continue the story and made something that was both a sequel and a reboot. And I have to say, from the Evil Dead reboot, yes, they went full horror. That movie is straight up horror, and it didn't work. It didn't become as memorable as the original Evil Dead because those were a mix of comedy and horror that worked.
The reboot is amazing. It's
why there are no more sequels then? Why it failed to launch the franchise again? That's the object of the reboot, to re-energize the franchise.
I would love to see a sequel to the Evil Dead. reboot,
Me too. But it didn't work,
I
so they
haven't
didn't
got
make
it yet. It did work, and it made its money. And I
it.
think
It
I
didn't
would
even make
prefer,
$100 million
I
worldwide.
would
It
prefer
didn't really work.
a franchise that originates ideas instead of just tormenting on tropes and horror. Really, what does Scream do that Scary Movie doesn't do exactly the same? Like,
Scary Movie is a straight up parody. That is a film that is funny and not scary at all. Scream is scary
I
consistently.
think if you watch Scream and Scary Movie back to back, really the only difference is that the former has a few less fart jokes in it.
I could say the same thing if you watch Army of Darkness and Bubba Hotep. Those are basically comedies that have a little horror element, but are not horror at all. If you're talking about the best horror franchise, you need it to be a horror franchise first.
Yeah,
And like I said,
and does
30
the
seconds.
best horror franchise star Nev Campbell and David Arquette? I don't think so. It stars Bruce fucking Campbell.
yeah, a B movie icon, but he's not a horror
That's
icon.
what you said, icon.
10 seconds.
The characters are more memorable in my films. You can actually remember more than one. Anything else than from Ash in the movies from Evil
And
Dead
that
is
is
not.
time. All right, guys, you both put up some very good arguments. I don't know about the other judges, but I still have to make up my mind on this one. So, Nazario, why don't we start with you with your 60-second closing statement whenever you begin talking.
The Scream movies broke the mold. Wes Craven reinvented the slasher genre completely by going very meta. They established rules specifically for each film. Even for the sequel/reboot for Scream 4, they actually turned the conventions around by making the final girl the actual killer. Spoilers. But and it always worked because he had a single voice from Wes Craven carrying the movies all the way through. I think Sam Raimi wanted to do more comedy than horror with Evil Dead. Evil Dead, like I said, is a good franchise overall, but it's not the best horror franchise because that movie starts as horror and ends up as comedy. And the biggest example is that when it went back to full horror, it failed what it wanted to do. That movie didn't even make $100 million worldwide. That failed to relaunch the franchise the way they wanted it. They put a tease with Bruce Campbell in the end because they
10
know
seconds.
Bruce Campbell is the thing. And yes, it's not developed characters. You can know about Gale, you can know about Dewey, you can know about Sidney in Scream, but you do not know anything.
It's time. That's time. All right. Emma, close us out here. Give us your closing statements. You got 60 minutes, or I'm sorry, keep saying minutes. 60 seconds on Evil Dead.
Scream did not originate anything. It just tormented on some very familiar horror cliches. And Evil Dead, its tropes are so well known that even if you haven't seen Evil Dead, you're aware of them. It's iconic. It was an originator in the horror franchise. And it doesn't star horrible actors like Nev Campbell and David Arquette. So I think the choice is obvious.
Okay. Wow, this is a rough one. Great way to start it off. Man, I still not sure which way I'm going to go here. So I'll start off. I'll go down the judges list the way I'm looking at them on my screen. So Nick, we'll start with you. These guys did not disappoint on this fight here. Which way are you leaning?
Couldn't agree more. Really good fight. Let's see. I think Emma had one of the best openings I've heard. That was a really, really good opening. The point about not being able to tell the difference between the movies and the parodies about the movies. I thought that was really good. But I got to say, as we went along, I just heard a lot more from Nazario. I didn't agree with Emma's point about it not inventing something. I think the meta-ness of it was sort of an invention for the time. And what really won me over was his point about how his franchise was continued, whereas Evil Dead's franchise had to be rebooted, and he sold me on the fact that the reboot didn't really work. So I'm going to go with Nazario.
Okay, that's one for Nazario. Mr. Carefree, what are your 2 cents on this one?
Both came out off the gate. Both had great arguments. I am also giving my point to Nazario because he said that it is a consistent horror. His argument is that it was a consistent horror franchise, more than horror, and he also defended the argument that Emma's argument saying that it didn't invent any trope Scream. It's not true, because even though she kind of said that scary movies basically Scream, so it did in a sense, and Scream came out first, it did invent a trope to itself. So my point is also for Nazario, but Emma's kick did amazing too. So this is gonna be a tough fight, I can tell.
That is 1 point for Nazario in our first contest, but that's all right, Emma. You're going to have a chance here to catch up. We're going to start off here with question number 2, and I like this one because, in my opinion, you guys have a lot of good choices to pick from. The question is, which Richard Gere performance is his worst? And this time, Nazario, we're going to start with you. Let me set my timer to 90 seconds. All right, whenever ready, you go ahead and make your opening statement.
Richard Gere has made a lot of bad movies, a lot of mediocre movies, but we're not talking about the movies themselves. We're talking about his performance in them. And I think if you judge straight up on that, the clear worst one, because of the material he's trying to do, is First Night. He is a very modern actor that I don't think he easily adapts to period pieces. And this is a classic. This is the story of Camelot and the love triangle between Arthur and Guinevere and Lancelot. And I don't think he has what it takes to be that guy. He has to convince us that he is worth it, that Guinevere is considering betraying her own kingdom by not going through with the marriage to King Arthur because of how she feels about Lancelot, which is Richard Gere. And the way he plays it is so weak that it never convinces you that's a reality. I will develop this more in the main round.
All right. Okay, Emma, what is your choice for worst Richard Gere performance?
So my choice is Dr. T and the Women. Am I starting now?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So there are obviously plenty of awful Richard Gere performances, but none compare to Dr. T and the Women. Richard drives his feet through a painful 2-hour runtime, only bothering to show any level of emotion when his character is disgusted by the notion that his daughter is a lesbian, and when he begs Helen Hunt to run away with him after the most boring romance in cinematic history. Rom-coms are really hard to script this badly because the genre has a tried and true formula that can either be followed or subverted to please the audience. But audiences certainly weren't pleased by this one, and they made it one of only 19 films to receive an F on the CinemaStore survey. I should need to say nothing else other than Tara Reid. That's right, Tara Reid outperforms Richard Gere in this awful movie. Let that sink in.
Okay, 2, I'm sure, very bad Richard Gere performances. So it's let's take the next 5 minutes. You guys convince us which is the worst. Fight it out.
I don't know if I think you're letting your opinion be driven by the fact that the movie is not great and it was poorly received. It could be
I'm not.
It could be argued that the movie works on some level, but I don't think the main reason why it failed is Richard Gere.
No,
I actually think, yeah.
In the very first moment of First Night, Richard Gere shows more life and more enthusiasm about that role than he does in the entire movie of Dr. T and the Women. And like, is his performance in First Night misogynistic and insulting to women? I don't know. But in Dr. T, it certainly is.
I don't think his performances. I think the script is very dry in Dr. T and the Women. It's a movie that it has only one male actor, that is Richard Gere, and it's surrounded by women, and actually puts most of his female characters in situations that has been done similarly in other movies by men, and it doesn't work because he wants to kind of put a twist on it, making one of the women go to an insane asylum just because she cannot deal with the fact that she's rich. I know that can feel insulting, but I think it's more of the script and the movie than Richard Gere. He just plays
It's his,
sweet,
it's his
bemused
performance.
doctor who cannot understand women, and I don't think he gets hit by the movie as hard as you're making it out to be. I think
But
a lot of
let me ask you, Nazario, if your wife regressed to a childlike state, that would bother you, right? That would hurt you. And it should hurt Richard Gere to see that. But can you really tell that he's suffering? No, you can't. He's just stone-faced and uninterested.
I think he's conflicted in it. It spends a while on the movie before he actually even considers seeing somebody else with Helen Hunt in the next character that he dates. That is the golf expert. I think it's a solid performance. I don't think it's horrible. I just think it's not
I don't
overacting.
know.
I wanna go a little bit into the first night. The thing is that for the first night, you needed a very strong core. This movie, at its heart, is a love triangle, and you need to believe that Guinevere is willing to leave everything go for this guy. He plays Lancelot such aloof, such a carefree knight with this attitude from 1990 that it just doesn't work at all. He doesn't fit the period. He doesn't give the character any gravitas. You do not believe for 1 second that Julia Ormond would actually fall in love with him when she has Connery on the other side, and
I mean,
that ruins the movie. You cannot do that story without the heart.
Isn't the main foundation of a love triangle that the woman has two very different choices? I think at the very least, Richard Gere is playing a role very different than the one Sean Connery is playing. I believe the love triangle.
But it doesn't work because the character is not believable. Look, I'm going to give you another example. One of the greatest love triangles in history in cinema is Casablanca, where you have Paul Henreid and Rick both fighting for Ilsa, basically. But Henreid is such a strong guy. He has character. He's a Nazi resistance fighter. You can understand why even if Ilsa loves Rick, she can still have to go with Paul. It's great done. It's one of the best movies of all time, and it all starts with the love triangle in the center. You can never put that similar with this love triangle because Richard Gere seems lost. His performance is completely lost in this film. It's like he doesn't even know the period or the intention he had to portray.
It's exactly the same in my film, Nazario. And you might talk about unbelievability. At the end of my film, Richard Gere is carried by a tornado from Texas to Mexico. Gets up as if nothing happened to him.
That's the script. That's not his performance. That's the script. You're saying it's a bad script.
It is his performance, because that's one of the most amazing things that could possibly ever happen to an individual. Does he look scared? No. Does he look shocked? No. He just runs to the house and gives birth to a baby as if it was no big deal, as if everything else in the movie was no big deal.
I don't think he gives birth to the baby. I think he helps the baby give
birth. And time.
Well, that's what I meant.
That's time. All right. So that's our fight. Two You guys definitely discouraged me from seeing either of these movies. But we got to determine which one of these is worse. So, Emma, why don't we go with you? And let me set my timer here. And whenever you're ready, you have your 60-second closing argument.
Richard Gere's performance in Dr. T in The Women is not only bad, it's offensive. It's offensively bad. And I really don't think First Night compares this in any way. At the very least, in First Night, you have a well-known love triangle. And in my movies, you just have a romance that you don't understand why it is, why these people like each other, or why we should care about them. And a big part of that comes down to Richard Gere's performance. The only performance I liked in the whole movie was Tara Reid. And that's ridiculous.
10 seconds.
I think that says everything I need to say.
All right. Okay, Nazario. It's your turn whenever you're ready. We have 60 seconds for First Night.
I think you keep mentioning the Tara Reid line because it's funny, and I agree it's funny. But I think your problem is with the movie itself. The movie is misogynistic. The movie is not believable. The movie has a bad script. The movie has an unbelievable scene where Richard Gere flies in a tornado and lands in Mexico. Those are script problems. Those are not Richard Gere's problems. The movie stars like 20 different women in roles that are really not the best. There are problems at the script level, and the acting is not at the level it should be. But I don't think Richard Gere gets hurt by the movie. I think he actually skates by with a very low-key, kind of sweet performance that doesn't really break the film. The film is broken already. First Night is a classic story. It's a legend story of Arthur and the Knights, and this depends. The heart of the film depends on the good acting of three characters, and Julia Ormond and Sean Connery are there, and they brought it. They came here to sell you that
10
love
seconds.
story, and Richard Gere just didn't. He just keeps acting out of the period. He has an aloof attitude that doesn't work. It doesn't. It's like he didn't understand
And
the
that's
material. And he broke the
time.
movie.
That's time. All right. So now we got to decide which one of these is worse. They both sound pretty bad. Mr. Carefree, we will start with you this time. Which one of these movies do you want to see the least? Based on these arguments.
I don't want to see. I mean, Richard Gere is not the type of actor I want to see in movies anyway. But based on the arguments, my point is going to Emma this time. Just because Nazario, Emma hit the fact that Tara Reid outshined Richard Gere in the movie. Also hit on the fact that at least in Nazario's film, and in the love triangle, you definitely do need three different types of character. Whereas Nazario said opinions that I try to say that Emma's opinions might affect his opinions, but at the same time, that argument hits Nazario's argument because even though Nazario may not like Richard Gere's performance First Night, others might have loved his performance. So my point goes to Emma.
All right. I'll go next on this one. And I had not seen either of these movies. I really had no interest in seeing either of these movies. So what I depended on is which one of you did the best job of turning me off to watching this performance, and which one of you really argued that it was the worst performance, the worst movie. And I think Emma did a better job. That you guys both did a good job of telling me why it was bad. But where Emma got the point for me was she was describing specific scenes and describing Richard Gere, and it sounded so Richard Gere. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I would expect from Richard Gere. That sounds really, really bad, and I don't want to watch that. And I didn't get as much as that from Nazario, so I'm also giving the point to Emma. So that takes the score to 1-1, which guarantees us a speed round. But first, we're going to go to question number 3. So this will decide who has the lead going into the speed round. Question number 3. Best comeback performance by an actor or actress. Nazario, why don't we start with you again? We'll begin the time whenever you start talking.
I think if you think about the greatest comeback performance of all time, it's clearly Michael Keaton in Birdman. Birdman is a beautiful case of a movie about life imitating art, especially for Michael Keaton. In this movie, he was an actor who became famous by playing this superhero called Birdman. And then after he ended his career as Birdman, he couldn't find any decent job because people kept imagining him as Birdman. And this beautifully mirrors Keaton's career because even in the movie, they specified the same year. He retired from being Birdman in 92, which is the same year that Keaton retired from being Batman. And to go from Beetlejuice and Batman to Jack Frost and Herbie Fully Loaded, it's kind of has to kind of be breaking your spirit because the quality of actor that he was, and he wasn't getting the opportunities anymore. This movie kicked the doors open for him again, and he's now again working on great stuff. So yeah, I think it's the greatest comeback in acting history.
Okay. And Emma, we'll go next to you. As soon as you start talking, I'll start your 90 seconds for your opening argument. Best comeback performance.
So, how do you really judge a comeback? I think you have to look, most importantly, at how far the actor came. And I think there's no better example than the moving performance of Mickey Rourke and Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler. Just like Birdman, it received universal acclaim and award buzz. I don't really think there's a lot to differentiate between the two on that front. It's also a film about life imitating art. But the fact is that Mickey Rourke just came from further back than Michael Keaton ever did. At one point, Mickey was considered to be the next Marlon Brando. You know, he had James Dean, the looks, and those all faded away. And now he looks like Gary Busey. You know, but Michael Keaton never became a boxer. Michael Keaton never went
10 seconds.
into direct to DVD movies. Michael Keaton had awards throughout the 2000s. It can really be considered a comeback.
And time.
Never went anywhere.
All right, so we'll continue that in the main fight time here. So whenever you guys are ready, we'll begin your 5 minutes.
I think to be a comeback, you have to come from greatness before. I don't think that Mickey Rourke was ever great. I think he had great roles because great directors made him have great roles. But he actually wandered between a lot of bad movies in the 90s and early 2000s, and he chose to become a boxer. That was not like he needed to do something.
Well, you're kind of making my point for me, Nazario. That yeah, he did wander through a lot of bad movies through the 90s and 2000s. In 2002, Michael Keaton was nominated for a Golden Globe for Life from Baghdad. In 2007, he was nominated for a SAG award for The Company. You know, he never really went anywhere.
You know what Michael Keaton was doing the year before Birdman? He was voicing a character in Noah's Ark, a cartoon that nobody ever knows existed. He didn't get a chance to shed the Batman character.
I don't know.
And I think you also made a mistake about Mickey Rourke and The Wrestler. I don't think his comeback film, if you can think of his comeback film for Mickey Rourke, is that one. I think he made his comeback in Sin City in 2005, where he was the high point of that movie playing Marv.
Yeah, Sin City was an ensemble film. He wasn't the lead. And also, Hollywood doesn't give a crap about comic book films. Only geeks like us do. So it wasn't really Mickey Rourke getting back to Hollywood thinking he was the next Marlon Brando. It was only The Wrestler that really made Hollywood embrace him again.
I think his comeback, like I said, it was Sin City, the movie that actually made everybody think about him again. And if to judge a good comeback, you also have to know what the actor did following the opportunity that he gained for that comeback. And what did Mickey Rourke do? He got a role in The Expendables that he didn't even get called back for the sequels. He got Iron Man 2, where he played one of the most forgettable villains in one of the worst MCU movies. And Michael Keaton embraced his comeback, and he started hammering with great films. The next year, he went back with Spotlight, a movie that got nominated for Best Picture the year after he did it. He did The Founder, he did Spider-Man Homecoming, where he actually made a twist on the character with wings that he did as Batman with the Vulture, and he made that one of the most memorable villains in the MCU, which is not an easy thing to do because those villains are forgettable.
Hey, I'm not going to sit there and argue that Michael Keaton isn't a better actor than Mickey Rourke. He is, but it's just about what is the best comeback performance. And really, I just don't think Michael Keaton was coming back. Birdman was more of a transitional film for him. He's just transitioning to an older prestige actor.
Voice acting on movies that are not Pixar or DreamWorks. He was meandering in his career. Yes,
like I said, 2002 Golden Globe nomination, 2007 SAG Award nomination. In that time, Mickey Rourke, nowhere to be seen.
Because he's not a great actor. He only works great when he has great directors pulling for him, which is why I'm making it.
Why it was
he was great in The Wrestler because Darren Aronofsky made him great, not because he was great. And like I said, what did he do with that when he came back? What was the follow-through with his big company?
That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
It does matter. We're talking about comeback. When you come back, it's because you have greatness to keep showing, and you have to keep making great movies after it. Because if not, then it's just a fluke. If you don't do anything, it's just a fluke. And the biggest example of this is that he didn't do anything with his comeback, that he actually had to go back to Sin City, which is his actual movie that brought him back from obscurity, for a sequel that had really diminishing returns. You picked the wrong movie for his comeback, and then he did nothing with it.
And you picked an actor that didn't make a comeback because he didn't go anywhere.
He was doing movies like Jack Frost. He was doing movies like
He was doing Life from Baghdad and The Company.
In Cars, one of the worst Pixar movies, because he did RoboCop the reboot. That's the kind of work that he was getting. He was not being considered things that are serious.
He did RoboCop the same year as Birdman.
10 seconds.
He did RoboCop the year before Birdman.
No, it was the same year. 2014.
And time. And I'm gonna while we're doing closing arguments, Nick or Richard, one of you mind fact checking that the release of Birdman and RoboCop? But while that's happening, we are going to do our 30-second closings, or I'm sorry, 60-second closings. Okay, we are ready to start. Nazario, we're going to start with you.
Real quick, you have 60. That's true. They came out the same year.
Same year? Okay, thank you. All right, Nazario, whenever you're ready, 60 seconds for your closing argument.
Michael Keaton is a great actor, and his career was meandering because he couldn't get meaty roles. He was getting this here and there stuff. Maybe it was Quentin Tarantino gave him a chance in Jackie Brown, but he wasn't doing memorable work anymore. And Alejandro González Iñárritu made this beautiful ode to his career. There's no question that the story on Birdman is a mirror of Keaton's career, down to the winged hero character. And he grabbed that opportunity that actually got him a nomination for Best Actor that sadly he didn't win, just like Mickey Rourke didn't win for The Wrestler. And he actually made a real serious movie comeback after that. He had made very great movies, Spotlight, The Founder after that. Mickey Rourke got seen by Darren Aronofsky and rescued for that movie, but he already had come back to the city. And after that, he just didn't do anything with it. He just made a bad accent for Iron Man 2, and he wasn't even good enough to come back for the Expendables sequels. He just
time.
Come back.
That's time. And Emma, You're going to get your closing statement now. Whenever you're ready, take your time. When we're ready to
So-
start, we'll start the time.
So, yeah, maybe Michael Keaton's career was meandering, but he was still in big budget films, and he was still winning awards as late as 2007. Mickey Rourke's career was direct to DVD. Yeah, that was his career, and he went from being an A-list to never was. And to get an Oscar nomination with the track record he had, drugs and sex scandals, plastic surgery, botches on his face. I think that is a way more satisfying comeback story than
10
an
seconds.
actor that just chose a good movie for a change.
Wow. Whatever happens from here on out, I'm going to say you guys have brought it tonight. There's been a couple of great fights, and this one here, you guys did not disappoint. I really love the way you both framed this with Emma, you going with the wrestler and saying that Mickey Rourke had further back to come from, where Nazario, you said that Michael Keaton had farther to fall from. And, I mean, you guys just kept trading blows back and forth. And it's true what Emma says that, for a brief time, Mickey Rourke was the next big thing. So, and the fact that, and Emma came up with, the fact that Michael Keaton was getting nominated for awards all that time. So, I mean, it's a pretty big, even fight. But what made the difference for me was that point Nazario made was that Michael Keaton did so much more with his comeback. It was such a better comeback that, he's still working, where Mickey Rourke, unfortunately, did just do a few things and kind of faded away again after that. So I'm giving the point to Nazario, but let's go on. And Nicholas, we'll go with you next. Who do you think won this fight?
Sure. Great fights on both sides. This turned into a little bit of a semantic thing. You were both kind of arguing what constitutes a comeback. And based on the arguments, here's what I needed for a comeback. I needed a starting point. I needed a low in the middle. I needed an ending point, and then I needed you to keep going. Otherwise, that ending point is going to be a one-hit wonder. So Nazario made that point pretty clear. And my biggest issue is I heard that Mickey Rourke was supposed to be the next Marlon Brando, but I didn't hear any examples as to why that was. I wasn't around back then, so I don't know what movies he was in, and I just didn't hear any, so I didn't get the starting point. While I agree, it sounds like Mickey Rourke's low was lower than Michael Keaton's. I think what Michael Keaton did constituted more of a good comeback than Mickey Rourke, as laid out by Nazario. So my point goes to him.
All right, so the point goes overall to Nazario, and that means going into the final round, Nazario is up. Into the speed round. Nazario is up 2-1. Speed round works like this. We will have 2 questions. The fighters have not been informed of what these questions are. They will be given 2 options. Whoever speaks first and takes their pick will get that pick. Obviously, the other person will take the second choice. Whoever talks first whoever takes their pick first gets to talk first. You will get, for the first question, a 30-second opening and then a 15-second closing statement. Are you both ready?
Yes.
And just a
Good.
reminder, the score is 2-1. So Nazario needs this for the win. Emma needs this to stay in the game. And speed round question number 1. What is the better trilogy? Taken or Transporter?
Transporter.
Okay, Emma gets Transporter. So Nazario will get Taken. So whenever you're ready, the 30 seconds begin when you start talking.
So both are kind of ridiculous trilogies, but at least Transporter has a bit of fun with it. And at least Transporter doesn't forget that the word kidnapping exists in English language.
Okay. All right. And Nazario, whenever you're ready, you get 30 seconds for Taken.
Taken is a more solid group of films, especially the first one, which actually relaunched the career of Liam Neeson as a bad, tough guy with a very memorable scene that everybody remembers. and I think it kept more the tone and the action in the whole series that the Transporter did. The Transporter kind of went into the cartoony way, and the third one was just goofiness, and the second one with the girl with the makeup running all over her face, it just was going for something less serious than Taken. Taken was more stable and more actually continuous through the drama of his family during the whole three films.
Do we
And
get like
time.
3 balls?
Yeah, you have 15 seconds. Whenever you're ready, you can do your rebuttal.
I think they're both pretty mediocre franchises, but at least with Transporter, it's fun. It takes itself not too seriously, and I find it more enjoyable.
All right, time. And Nazario, you'll close this one out with 15 seconds. Whenever you're ready.
The through line on the Taken films about his family is a stronger through line and a very solid drum bass. I think its high point is higher than the Transporters, and its low point is higher still than the lowest points of the Transporter that just became a goofy cartoon in the end that made no sense. And I don't find that kind of
And
movie.
time. Okay, so we have to decide now. We'll start back from the beginning, and Nicholas, we will go to you. Which one of these arguments did you think won you over better?
Yeah, this was tough because Emma sort of started off saying how the Transporter doesn't take itself seriously. Then Nazario's point against it was that it doesn't take itself seriously, but I was kind of like, that's what she said. I don't know that I agree with some of the statements made about Taken, but I think I'm going to have to give my point to Nazario just because I got more specifics in regards to the Transporter and with Taken, how there's a through line with his family at least. So I think I'm going to have to go with Nazario and Taken.
All right. And Richard, we'll go to you next. Taken or Transporter?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, Nazario, my point is going to Nazario just because I heard more reasons why Taken was better than Transformer and not enough about why Transporter was better than Taken. I mean, I was honestly just waiting for you to say how many times can a daughter be kidnapped to make it a 3 movie, but
Yeah,
if you would have said that line, that probably would have been to a point for Emma. But my point is going to Nazario as well.
So yeah, that gives the point to Nazario, but that means your winner tonight with a score of 3-1 is Nazario. Congratulations, Nazario. We will go to you first after this fight. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. This is my first win in Battlegrounds. I have to mostly agree with your guys' decision. I do think I messed up a little bit the Richard Gere argument. There were some points that I had in my mind that I should have mentioned and I forgot about them. But that's what happens. And Emma surprised me. She rolled me up and she actually took me off my footing a few times that I didn't expect. And that is the good part about this debate, that you prepare so much and you know where they're going to attack you, and somebody just gives you a left hook out of nowhere where you're not expecting, and then you get dizzy and you have to react into like 15 seconds and find something to do. And I love this thing. I love debating movies, and sometimes you have to debate bad movies like we just did because Taken sucks. But still, you have to make it good for 15 seconds. I love it. I think it's a great match. I think Emma did a great job too, and a lot better than I expected today.
Yep, you did a great job. Congratulations, and Emma, your second place today. Nothing to hang your head about. You had a great fight. You made it hard on all three of us judges. I think you both did, and just came up a little bit short. What are your thoughts on your fight tonight?
No, I think I did a good job, and I'm a little disappointed, but perhaps I came into this fight a little overconfident. I am a philosopher by trade, so I would think that rhetoric and argument would come easy to me, but I don't think I really took account of the physical toll this would take on my body and how that might affect my arguments. And this is now the second time Nazario has embarrassed me, and I'm starting to hate him a little bit. I think I might give a call to my friend Dollface, and maybe she'll deal with him.
Well, Nazario, this may have not turned out as good for you as you think right now if Dollface is getting involved. But Emma, you did great. You powered through, and like I said, you gave Nazario a great fight. Gave the audience a great show. Nicholas, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, no, this was really good. I mean, you definitely shouldn't feel embarrassed. There wasn't a single fight that I was that I was totally on one side or the other. You each had me pulling every which way on each question. So I don't think either of you should hang your heads. I think it was a good match to watch, to judge, and to be in. So well done.
Absolutely. Mr. Carefree, take us out. What are your final thoughts on the night?
It was a great match. Like, yeah, it was. Both competitors came out swinging, and it wasn't just like a clear-cut winner. Like both competitors had every single chance. Like, I was back and forth in quite a lot of these rounds. Just want to say Emma did really well. She should not hang her up high. Just keep your focus and hate on Nazario, not the judges. That's all I'm saying. So I will help you if you want to attack Nazario. Just don't.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Richard.
No,
that's right.
great.
Yeah. Keep all the fury focused at Nazario and away from us, please. But no, I feel the same way. I've judged a lot of these matches now. I got a few judging experience under my belt, and I'd say this one was the hardest one for me so far. It all came down to while you guys were giving your final thoughts on all three arguments, I was still making up my mind. So great job, Emma. Great job, Nazario. Congratulations. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody watching. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time. Movie Battleground. Have a good night, everybody.